I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. Well, welcome today to my guest, Artie Isaac. Artie is in the Columbus, Ohio area, is that correct?
I live in Yellow Springs, about an hour west, but my market is generally in Columbus.
Okay, very cool. So Central Ohio, and you have a whole bunch of groups.
I
You're
do.
you are you are very you are definitely a guy that's got some Vistage groups. So we've got a a chief executive group. We've got a small business group. You've got two key exec groups, and you've got a trusted advisor group, and it's not a common one, but the inside group as well.
I do.
And actually, I'll be super interested to hear about that.
Sure.
But before we get going, would love to talk really quickly about what was your journey? What was what was the path like to becoming a Vistage chair? Obviously, for a lot of folks, this is a second or even a third career. And so, what is the professional journey that brought you to Vistage?
I worked in advertising and public relations
Oh,
for,
bless your heart, sir.
yeah,
I've
it was
been
not a blessing for my heart, but thank you. I,
18 years for me.
and for me, 18. And I found that uh, I was not as good as my competitors at that business. I was a good employer. Uh, I worked with wonderful people. I'm very grateful for the conversations and debates and the writing and the graphic design. However, I didn't know until I'd left it that I didn't really care about that very much, and so
Right.
finding chairing, the way I got there was I was in a peer group, not in Vistage. I was in a different platform, the EO platform, and I really enjoyed it. And when I sold my business, I no longer qualified to be in my group, even though they said, well, stay as the moderator. And I said, I don't want to do that. That's not the way this is built. And so I'd been debating over the years with a local Vistage chair, Ken Ackerman, who we debated the relative merits of the platforms. And he said, this is your chance to become a Vistage chair. And so he nominated me and encouraged me. And I became a chair 13, almost 14 years ago.
That's really terrific, and kudos to you for taking that plunge. It's and 13 years is a long time to be doing that. Um, what what did you bring with you from and I ask this as somebody who's run a marketing agency for 18 years, and I have also made the decision to stop. But what what are the good things that and this is important to me for my own,
Sure,
what are the good things that you brought with you in your life after that world?
sure. One of my discoveries was, in retrospect, whatever made me able in advertising and marketing, I had learned, in my case, this is just my story. In my case, I'd learned in high school.
Hmm.
There were three skills I was taught: writing, improvisation, and cheerleading. And what I found was, in the agency life, I was at my best when words had meaning, when I
Hmm.
was able to think on my feet as an improvisational actor, and where I was giving people old-fashioned encouragement like a cheerleader. Once I realized that I had those skills and that those skills had been the ones that kept me afloat in the advertising life, I realized I need to return to those foundational skills in chairing. And that's what I brought from me. For me, advertising and marketing, my career before Vistage, was a laboratory
Hmm.
for developing, maybe I should say, adapting older skills for a uh, business purpose.
How has your style as a leader evolved over the last 13 years since you have moved from your last career to this one? What do you find yourself better at now, or what skills have you developed now as a Vistage chair that you didn't have when you were running your business?
I was beset with fear when I owned an ad agency. I had employees, I had clients,
Hmm.
and I had self-doubt. And my self-doubt appeared as fear instead of self-doubt, and they're very different things. But I kept experiencing fear. When I started in Vistage chairing, I believed I had to fit a certain model of chair, and the
Hmm.
model of chairing that I see is very paternalistic. It's very uh, well, it's run by people who, in the words of other people, have said to me, it's run by people. Chairs are people who represent the those that run the economy. And so as a result, it was a very narrow slice. It was generally white and male.
Right.
And I I had to start to look beyond uh, the narrow confines of our economy, and I had to let go of fear. The way I've let go of fear is through the altruistic belief that the faster I can ask what's perplexing to me, the faster we can get somewhere. So
Right.
I have lost the ability to be offended or to feel embarrassed. There are there are actions or things that I say that aren't well honed, and the world might be better without my having said it. And I'm not embarrassed. I did the best I could with what I had at hand. Similarly, I don't take offense. I know in this world there are people who would kill me. I know there are people in this world who would kill me. I'm just choosing not to be offended by other people's decision making, even if it results in my death. So, and in business and in chairing, we're nowhere near that.
No, no,
How
we're
can I be
not.
offended by someone's use of language in a certain way? How can I be offended? I think I'm beyond being offended because there are real things in this world that are happening that make my reality a joyride.
The that fear is a very, very real feeling for a lot of entrepreneurs. The difference between scarcity and abundance is sometimes hard for a lot of people to, and I can tell you for myself as a business owner that that fear is a difficult thing to overcome. What do you tell your members when you see them approaching their world from that scarcity place, that fear place, the idea that this house of cards is going to fall down any moment?
Well, in my I certainly offer them my story. My house of cards is going to fall down at any moment. None of this is permanent.
Right.
Everything is temporary. And so, as one of my teachers, Sri Kumar Rao, says, the sooner we understand we were born to die, the easier that last trip in the ambulance to the hospital will be. So, my feeling is the denial of death and the denial of uh, uh,
That
frailty
yeah, that things
is
fall apart.
that things fall apart. That's where the suffering is. My feeling is so I'm not a big believer in abundance versus scarcity. I think scarcity might be right. We are squabbling over limited resources. That's
We
what
are.
economics is. It's the allocation of scarce resources. And so I don't think that it's wrong to have a scarcity mindset. And all the pop psychology talks about, oh, if you envision abundance, it'll come to you. I don't know if that's true. My question for my members, to get to your original question,
Yeah.
how do I address when they have a fear mindset? My question is, how is that serving you? If it is serving you, not just at work and building your asset, but also in your life and the quality of life. If it's serving you, Far be it from me to suggest changing it. But I want people to realize that fear, not always, but in most cases in modern living, is a choice.
That is a fantastic way to look at it. I
It
love
takes
that.
work though. It takes work. People have to, we have to get over fear, because fear is a natural, fear and shame are probably the two, driving emotions. We've been taught in a consumer society that's always at war, we've been taught to feel fear and shame all the time.
Right,
So we live in a culture of fear and shame. I want my members not to create needless suffering in the people around them by not running their enterprises as cultures of fear and shame. And
right.
they don't have to. And I might be the first like humanities instructor they've ever come across. I think of myself as a unlicensed rabbi serving non-Jews, which is not a joke that translates to audio podcast. But I find that I'm not coming at this in a novel way. It's just countercultural.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really and I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate and really love that perspective that you just shared. The uh, the thing that oh, you got to I think I hear a dog.
Yeah, I'm
What
I'm beset with dog.
what kind of dog? And this is
It's a
actually
Maltipoo. It's a half Maltese and half toy poodle, 4 pounds of each.
okay. We're gonna go back to Vistage in a second, but this became an a segue of sorts. Your website is called Poetry for Dogs, and you wrote a book called Poetry for Dogs. Is the poetry for the dogs, or is it
Yeah,
about, do you?
I feel like it's an underserved market. The it is it's poetry that doesn't pretend to know what dogs are thinking, though it attempts. Um, but it's definitely not the kind of poetry that belittles dogs. I've always loved dogs, and frankly, I've loved dogs more than humans. And I will tell you that most of my ability with humans, including Vistage members, is that I treat them like dogs. And that sounds bad because of the expression
Yes.
like a dog. No, no. I'm clear with treats. I'm very explicit. We go out when we have to go out. The food is predictable. Uh, you know, People like the kind of order that dogs appreciate. And so Poetry for Dogs was a creativity experiment sort of gone awry. Let me make this offer. Any listener to your podcast
Oh,
can get in touch with you,
okay.
send you their postal address. You send that to me, and I'll send them a free copy of the book.
Well, I'm definitely going to be taking advantage of that for myself because I
Terrific.
saw this I need to have that in my life.
I'm glad to send it to anyone who requests.
What where did the inspiration to do that come from, and how long have you been writing for publication? Would love to hear a little bit about that if
Sure.
that's cool.
The publication I write for, though I've been published in a couple of places, I don't seek third-party publication. I find that to be a, a solution to a problem I don't have. I self-publish through the Amazon service, Kindle
Sure.
Direct Publishing. I About 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I took a course in creativity and personal mastery. It's taught by a teacher I mentioned earlier, Sri Kumar Rao. He said that we should, it was the month of May. I remember it was the fifth month of a year-long program. And he said that month we should pick one challenge that one daily activity that we like and one daily activity we don't like, and engage in them mindfully, not trying to get them finished, but engaging in them. Well, one of them was washing dishes and one of them was walking the dog. And I don't remember which one I liked or which one I didn't. It depends on whether it's raining. And I kind of like washing dishes. That aside, I was walking the dog. And instead of saying to her, as I often would, come on, Margot, let's get going, do your business. I got to get on with the day. I engaged in conversation with her. I realized that in just a couple of days, I realized, I think I have about 10 conversations I've had with thousands of dogs about how something smells or what's that look like, or is that a big dog or a small dog over there. I have had a series of recurring conversations with dogs I've met. And so I went that later that it was a Monday because today I'm on my way there after this. It's called Shut Up and Write. It's an experience that's offered across the country and around the world. You can Google it. Shut Up and Write is a 1 hour, well, shut up and write. A group of people in a coffee shop just abide by those simple rules. And I decided to write down the names of the conversations. And there weren't 10, there were about 35. And I realized that was the table of contents for a poetry book. And I wrote a poem for each one of those. And the poem is little more than the conversation we have when we're on the walk or in the big chair. So no
Nice.
deeper meaning, but the lesson was mindfulness can lead to creative productivity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love to talk about your groups, and I'm sorry it's taken me this long to get there,
That's
but
fine.
I would love to hear about your groups. And actually, I think that you're the first chair that we have talked to on this podcast that has an inside group. So I would love it if you talked about that a little bit because
Sure.
those are different.
Um, Inside is very different in that just fundamentally a couple things. One, they know each other better than I know any one of them. I mean, they work together. They know they know families. They've been together a long time. They've got inside jokes. They've got all kinds of baggage, positive and negative. But I mean, they're rich, connected. These people work together average, I think, of 12 or 15 years. They've been there, this company for a long time. It's a very successful company. That's one difference. The second difference is that they can't, because of the first thing, they can't go as deep as a group of strangers might. You might confide in a seatmate on an airplane. When the airplane dips, two strangers might share secrets.
Right.
This group has to work together without, so there's a limit to how vulnerable they can be, but it is deeper than they thought it would be. In this, in our experience with a chair, with a lifeguard at the pool, they're willing to go a little bit deeper. The other difference that it took me a while to learn, they had to teach me. They said, hey, in your other groups, people say, here's advice and good luck, and what's your key takeaway and your next action? Good luck. Hope it goes well. Hear about it next month. One of them said to me in front of everybody, in the group meeting, he said, that doesn't work here. We are the people that solve the problems here. So we can't just go away with a good luck. I hope it works out for you. Because the person that this guy's going to go seek the help of after processing his issue today is sitting right over there. So our issue processing doesn't end until we get to an internally implementable set of next steps. It's not as frankly, it's not as loose as a group of strangers inevitably have to be. So accountability isn't an
Yeah.
issue. They know. They know.
It's far more limited in a traditional group on the accountability side. But of course, a lot of us talk about how our Vistage groups are safe spaces that we can share whatever we need to and whatever the Vegas rule, whatever happens here stays
Yep.
here. But obviously, that's a real challenge in an inside group when everybody's working at the same company and they've got to see each other tomorrow.
Yep. So here's another difference: confidentiality. We agreed. I mean, there were my rules at the beginning, and my rules were like the Vegas rules. Um, and after a while, it was starting to keep secrets from the CEO. And everyone adores the CEO. He's a great guy, and it was countercultural to a negative. And
They
so
were sort of making a club that he wasn't invited to or she wasn't invited to.
yeah, that he wasn't invited to, and it was because that's the way Vistage is, not because that's what would serve us the best. So after the first year, we all sort of looked at each other. We said, let's change that rule. If you got to talk to Denny, his name is Denny. If you got to talk to Denny, talk to Denny. There is nothing here that is secret. And so what ends up happening is it might get a little bit deeper and more confrontational with regards to internal dynamics when certain people are absent. You know, generally what would be referred to as cautious gossip, um, because they really are trying to get at something. I've expanded my tolerance for talking about people who aren't in the room.
Gotcha. Have the folks that are in the room, are they all where on the org chart are they? Are they all high level executives?
They are the one that the two that report directly to the CEO, the rest that report to them with dotted line to the CEO for sure, though, and the ones that report to them. So we started with the smaller um, uh, senior leadership team, and we've added the less senior leadership team. Interesting dynamic. During the first year, the senior leadership team said, "This is far too expensive. We know what we're paying Vistage, and all of our time, and we are the most valuable people in this company. This is we're the most expensive people. Put it that way. We're the most
Right.
expensive people. This is ridiculously expensive. We're only here because the CEO told us to be here, and we trust the CEO to know what's going on. But the junior level of leadership said, "Oh no, this is incredibly helpful to our development because we're now, for the first time, hearing conversations directly, senior leader to senior leader about how you're resolving issues. We're learning, we're building depth and capacity." And so that was pretty persuasive for all of us because I was ready to walk because I thought it was expensive, and the senior leadership team was definitely ready to walk. But the junior leadership team, if I can call them that, said, "This is a worthy investment. Please don't stop doing it."
Well, it says a lot for even at that level, the meaning of mentorship and how important it is for people to see other people like them working out problems and
Yep.
understanding they're not the only ones. How does it work? How does the dynamic work when you've got people in the room that actually report to each other?
They're fine with it because it happens outside of the room too. They're pretty used to telling each other frankly how they feel about things. This is not a group that is uh, hesitant. But what we've done is something that it was sort of an improvisation. It was a suggestion of one of the members. These guys, unlike a Vistage group, these guys know one company deeply well, the same company. They all know it deeply well.
Right.
It's very different from a Vistage group where everybody knows a different company really well. And so what we had to find a way to get them an opportunity to work at a different company. And
Hmm.
so what we started doing was bringing in Harvard Business School cases. And we've been doing this is the third year of the group, and just about every month this year, we've done a different business school case. And we simply ask the questions. What are the people in the case facing? We have them split into small groups, and they come back and report. And then we say, where do we see that kind of thing happening here? Or what have we done to harden our process to avoid that kind of, foolishness? Or yeah, I mean, we all. It's almost like we take a field trip to another company, critique that company while we're there, then come back and say, "Hey, what did we learn over there that can save us some heartache here?" It's been really helpful. We've done it for about a year now, and we've just decided to step away from that and try something else. Uh, but I would recommend that. I think that inside really would benefit from cases. And I wrote Vistage, headquarters right away and said, "Hey, here's something we're doing. I think it's helpful."
That's really good insight. And I was having, as you were talking, I was having flashbacks to my MBA program and yeah, the case learning was one of the most valuable parts of everything that we did, regardless of the class. Having that, oh, this is a real thing that I might actually face, and this is how the
Yep.
people in that situation reacted, and then how in turn would I react if I were in that situation. It's enormously valuable. What's the difference that you find between the different types of groups that you have?
Sure.
What's the energy that's different for you between, say, a key exec group and a CE group or a small business group?
So I think it's a neurosis to attempt for me to attempt to understand my groups. And the reason I say that is because, different people show up every month. My feeling is every group is a new group every month. They might think they remember the people, but the people have changed. The people have had a month's worth of experiences, and that can change you. And I think we underestimate how much we change in a month. And that said, I would say that key groups generally aren't signed on the line of credit, so they do have a different orientation to problems. They're
Right.
trying to create a dependable hierarchy, a predictable output, so that the number one can face the direction the number one wants to face, whether it's the marketplace or the golf course or whatever.
Sure.
The small business, which I think is poorly named, because I don't think anyone intends to be small.
You're the second chair that I've had on this that's mentioned that
Well, and
because
that's fine. I mean, and that's not bad. I don't think they need to change the name. I just say that to prospects so they know, so they understand. They are really trying to set up their first or maybe second leadership team. And they are the ones who spend the most on Vistage because their absence in their company can, in many ways, almost stop the company. The CE groups, one of my members said that the CE group is dealing with rivers of cash and rivers of people. And so they've got a leadership team, but they're trying to figure out deals, sales, and not revenues, but purchase and selling of units. Um, the SB group is trying to figure out exit strategy. How is there a way for me to make this a sellable asset? The CE
hmm
group has a sellable asset. Now,
right.
I say that as if my groups are that different, but back to my earlier comment about neurosis, they're not. The lines between them are blurry. The degree to which I serve them is almost the same. I do the same thing for any member, and the pricing just seems to be oddly different for them. I don't know why. Um, and all of them share more than what makes them different. Basically, they feel isolated at work, and
Yep.
they're less isolated because of this group.
Real quick, I wanted to touch on something that you sent a note about there. There's something that's a little bit different that in the way that you work. You mentioned that you don't do one-to-ones, which is very unconventional. And then you mentioned that you book fewer speakers than most other Vistage chairs do. What drove you to be different on those?
Well, let's start with at the beginning, that wasn't the case. I strongly
Oh, sure.
recommend all chairs in their first 5 years do the formula. Stick with the program. The program is good. And it got me to a point where I started to wonder whether or not my members wanted to see me. And so instead of booking the year, your fourth Tuesdays at 10, Charlie, what I started saying was, if any, but from now on, we're going to do an experiment. You can have as many one-to-ones as you want. It's not limited to one a month. You can have as many as you want. And I won't book more than one at a time, and you have to call my admin to book it. And what I found out was how many members wanted to meet with me. And that number, let me think, it was zero. Nobody nobody. And I thought, holy cow, I just got 2 weeks a month back. That's crazy. And I started applying my talents to other things. Uh, Whether I'm writing poetry for dogs or group emails to the whole practice, I found so I founded a group without giving them one-to-ones, and and then I transferred that group to another chair after a while. And he went to the members and he said, "Hey, you get one-to-ones." And one of them said, "What's that?" And he described it. And the
What's
person
that?
said, "Oh, if I'd known that was included, I wouldn't have joined." I generally question whether or not one-to-ones are something members want, or is it something the chair needs to feel useful to the world. I don't need that. So if the member doesn't want it, and the members bringing issues, and the members coming to the retreat, and the members doing buddy lunches, and the member is participating in deep issues and the meetings, then they don't need to see me. What I tell people in a selection interview at this point is, if you ever need to talk to me, something's gone terribly wrong, I'm available to you, but we're going to fix it. And generally what's going to happen is you're going to call me and you're going to say, oh, my vice president of sales just quit. And I'm going to say, oh, Eric, that sounds really hard. Which member in the group should you be talking to? Because it's ridiculous that I would think I'm going to pack up my briefcase and like daddy come over and help you. No, you bought peer influence. Let's get a peer in front of you. And you're going to say, I should talk to Steve, or I should talk to Sue. And I'll say, yeah, and also talk to Sharma, because I think they're about to face it too. So I find that, listen, Moses didn't come out of Mount Sinai and say, thou shalt meet for a full day plus a 90-minute one-to-one. This is the formula is the best guess that Vistage has for the model. But I think I have found that left to member devices, they may or may not want it. I do have one member who takes a weekly 30-minute one-to-one. That just started about 3 months ago. It's fine, but I don't have any others. And I will tell you, if you like going to one-to-ones as a chair, have at it, man. Go. Me, I don't care for that. I have coaching clients that aren't in the Vistage target audience. And that's where I like coaching. Coaching business people, to me, I'm there if they need it, but man, I'm not looking for it.
Artie, I'm afraid that we're over our time together.
Okay.
So, but man, I've enjoyed having you, and this was a fantastic conversation. You're really appreciate you've got a super unique perspective. What's if folks have questions about your groups or just want to ask you about writing groups or poetry, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. I have a contact page that describes how I like to be contacted. It's at artieisaac.com.
We'll link
And
to
what I
that
ask
from the
people
show
is
notes.
I ask them to send me a how do I, and I respond to them with a quick video answer. And if that doesn't satisfy them, they can tell me how that's not enough.
Well, cool.
I'm an introvert, no matter what you're experiencing.
Thank you so much for being my guest. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.